YouTube, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and I have been playing in a new event. Even though it's almost over, I do want to share the deck that I've been using. Now, you might hate this deck because of how powerful it is, but this is going to be my version of what I use during the event, and yes, you can use this outside of the event. Fair warning, I will say that I do expect a ban list. I do expect a lot of these cards in this deck to be limited to one. So I already kind of preemptively did those cuts. So if the ban list does come out and many Kaleido, Murata, Kelbeck, and Agito are already at 1, you can maybe use this list. I haven't adjusted the Tearlaments. I think they might be hit to 1, but I'm not entirely sure. But this is the deck list that I used for the event. I want to share it with you guys. You can adjust with it accordingly. So first off, before I talk about card for card, I want to talk about the main combo and point of the deck. So this is one of the most powerful Yu-Gi-Oh decks at the moment. It's called Tearlaments. The point of the deck is essentially you want to send cards from your top of your deck to the graveyard, and when cards are sent from the top of your deck to the graveyard, you get effects. The effects that are most important are from the Tearlaments themselves. They allow you to fusion summon using cards from your graveyard, from your field, and from your hand. You can do a lot of really cool things using your graveyard as a second hand. There's other cards in here, such as Kelbeck, I believe, where if it's sent to the graveyard, each player, even your opponent, sends 5 cards from the top of their deck to the graveyard. Another one that works well with it is Agito. We're only running 1 each, even though you can technically run 2, because I do expect them to be hit on the ban list because they are extremely powerful cards, even outside of Tearlaments. There's a lot of ways to mill. Milling is pretty much the main point of the deck. It's the bread and butter. It's the gambling aspect. It's the fun aspect. Did you hit good? Did you hit 5 effects in your graveyard all at once? Or did you just brick? It happens, but this deck is super consistent because of how powerful it is. Now, I do want to talk about the extra deck because the main combos in this deck, besides milling, is going into fusions. Kick Kalos, which is banned in the TCG, not sure if it's going to be banned in the Master Duel as well, is really powerful because it only requires 1 Tearlaments and 1 Aqua. We actually run a lot of Aquas. We run Beast King of the Swamp, who can beat any fusion material, so he's pretty good there. He's also an Aqua. And then we run Supreme Sea Mare, who's an Aqua, and he sends directly from the deck. So it's really easy to go into Kick Kalos, so we just search out a Tearlaments card. Also, when she's sent to the graveyard from a card effect, we send 5 cards from our deck to the graveyard, and I do use that effect quite a bit. Besides that, we go into Tearlaments Rukalos. She is essentially, if your opponent wants to special summon a monster or something using like a card effect, negate. It's really cool because it stops Nibiru, which, I mean, Nibiru is kind of scary because it gets rid of the whole field. She's just like, nah, no more Nibiru. I'm just going to keep special summoning. Also, if she's sent to the graveyard from a card effect, she just comes back. And then the next most important one, which I was originally only running 1, but I pulled 2, so I put 2 in the deck, but you can get away with 1. I did, and it worked perfectly fine. Tearlaments Kaleido Heart. This guy is when he's special summoned, you can shuffle a card. It doesn't need to be a monster or a spell trap, it's anything, a card, on the field into the deck. Also, when he's sent to the graveyard, special summon him back, and you can send a Tearlament. So he has a Foolish Burial built-in effect. We also run XYZs because you can make rank 4s fairly easy, and Zeus is the most powerful XYZ in the entire game, so if we can run him, we are going to run him. You can technically get away with just running Buska, not running Starliege, and just Zeus. I run Starliege because I don't own many rank 4s, and I think he's pretty good because he essentially makes it so monsters with 2,000 or more attack cannot be targeted or destroyed with card effects. I really like the targeting effect because, I mean, that's just pretty good. Your boss fusions, they just can't be targeted, so it makes them really annoying. And yeah, we do run a little bit of Links. You can go into Links. Spright Elf can grab back Maxx or Mare from your graveyard, which is kind of nice. It gives you an option. Derek's really nice because we can steal a dark from our opponent. I do it a couple times in a couple duels, just because sometimes we're playing a mirror match against Tearlaments and we can steal our opponent's Tearlaments and use their effects. Other times we can just take a big monster. And Underworld Goddess is there as an option. I don't think I made her once, but I love having her there just in case things get really bad and we're just like, man, I don't know what to do. She can use an opponent's monster as material, so it's just another out if your opponent has something that you just can't get rid of. Alright, now that I finished talking about what the point of the deck is, let's talk about the most important cards in the deck. Tearlaments. Tearlaments Mare, when she's summoned, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Also, when she's sent to the graveyard by card effect, whether that be sent from the top of your deck or whether it be like used as fusion material or just any way, shape, or form, just sent to the graveyard by card effect. You can fusion using your graveyard, your hand, and on your field. All of the Tearlaments have that effect except for Rhinoheart. Rhinoheart does not do that when he's sent to the graveyard. He doesn't fusion. He just brings himself back, which isn't bad, but it isn't the other ones. Besides 2 Merly, we have 2 Haviness. This is also one of the most important ones. If your opponent activates a card effect, you special summon it from your hand, quick effect, so it's kind of like a hand trap, but it doesn't negate your opponent's monster effect. It just special summons her, and you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. The next card is Tearlaments Scheiren. Essentially, you can special summon it from your hand by sending another monster from your hand to the graveyard, and then you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Notice a pattern? Send 3, send 3, send 3. They all have effects where you mill cards from the top of your deck. And what really combos well with these is the most important cards, I would say, in the deck, which I'm only running at 1 because I do think they're going to get limited to 1 because they're so powerful and important, are Kelvek, where when it's sent to the graveyard, you can send 5 cards from your deck to the graveyard. As long as it's sent from your deck or your hand to the graveyard, you send 5. Really cool effect. And then Yugioh is kind of similar. If it's sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, you can send 5 cards from your deck to the graveyard, you and your opponent. And I really do like that you're also sending your opponent's cards, because we run cards like Murata, where we can banish it, target cards in our opponent's graveyard, shuffle them back into the deck. Same with Keldo, same exact effect, banish it, shuffle cards from our opponent's graveyard back into the deck. But we also run this card called Nail Shaddoll Aerial, where we can target cards in our opponent's graveyard and banish them. So even though our opponent may get a little bit of advantage from them sending 5 cards from their deck to the graveyard, we can just banish it. We can just get rid of those cards, and they're probably never going to be able to use those again. So let's talk about card for card. 3 Maxx. Maxx is the most powerful card in the game at the moment. I think the majority of deck lists in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel run this one card. If there's any card that you think, man, what should I craft that'll make my deck better? Maxx. Maxx is one of the best cards in the entire game. Essentially what it is if your opponent is gonna special summon something, so if they activate a card that says like, hey, special summon this, or special summon something from the deck, or do something that involves special summoning, you chain Maxx, you drop it from your hand, activate it, and then if your opponent does special summon and Maxx doesn't get negated, because sometimes it does get negated, which is nice because it baits out the negate, you can draw every time they special. So you draw 1 from that, they special summon again, you draw 2, you draw 3, 4, 5, you just draw a lot. It works really well in the deck too because it's a level 2. It works with Spright Elf, which is just a nice combo. Next up we got Tearlaments Merly. When it's normal or special summon, you mill 3. It's very, very, very important. Usually when you mill, you want to mill a Tearlaments because you just get so many powerful effects from these Tearlaments. Next up we have Tearlaments Haviness. It's kind of like a hand trap. Special summon if your opponent activates an effect. Send the top 3. It's pretty important. Also when it's sent to the graveyard, you can fusion summon. You want to either hit it in the graveyard for fusion summon, or if it's in your hand, you're hoping that your opponent activates a card effect so that you can just get your plays rolling, the ball rolling, you start milling like crazy. Next up we have Beast King of the Swamp. This is a budget option. There are other ones. There's King of the Swamp, who's essentially the same thing. The reason I chose this one is because he's water, he's aqua, and he can be any fusion material. The any fusion material is really, really important. His stats suck. The main reason he's here is because he allows us to cheese out things like Invoked Caliga that requires Alistar the Invoker. Nah, Beast King of the Swamp becomes anything. We can also cheese out Kaleido Heart if we don't have a Rhino Heart in our graveyard. It's just, I love it. It's a lovely, lovely card. It's budget. I am running 3 copies. You can maybe run 2. I like it at 3. I think it's well. Next up, 3 Squamata. This is a really budget option too, which I surprisingly liked a lot. Essentially, it's a flip summon, so if you flip it, you can destroy a monster in the field. You usually never use that effect, but it is there as an option. The main reason you run this card is because when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, whether it's sent from the top of your deck, your hand, your field, whatever, if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send a Shaddoll from your deck to the graveyard. Any Shaddoll, and we have options. The next one we have is Shaddoll Dragon. This guy is essentially when he's sent to the graveyard from a card effect, we can destroy spell trap on the field. Not always the best in every matchup. Sometimes decks don't even play spell traps, but I do like having a spell and trap destruction that is easy enough to like activate in our deck. So it just gives us a little bit more options. Next up, we have 2 Fairy's Tail and Snow. You could run 3. I think 2 is a perfect number. And essentially, is if she's in the graveyard, you can banish 7 other cards from your hand, field, or graveyard, special summon her, and then when she's special summoned, she has like a Book of Moon type effect. Target a face-up monster on the field your opponent controls, switch it face down. It's a nice effect. She's really cute. Look at her. She's like a little, I don't even know, like a mouse or something. But she's also extremely powerful. She's actually banned, or she's been banned and limited to 1 a couple times. I'm surprised she's at 3 in Master Duel because she's so powerful. But I do highly recommend running her. Even if you can only run 1, you should. She is really powerful. Really powerful card. Next up, we have Neil Shaddoll Aerial. She has a flip effect that you're never probably going to use in this deck, but the main reason you run her is because when she's sent to the graveyard for a card effect, banish 3 cards in any graveyard. I really like banishing opponent stuff, and the main way to get stuff into your opponent's graveyard is by using a Yugioh or Kelbeck, which mill 5 cards each from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, along with yourself. So the main reason that Mare is in the deck list is because his effect's good. We can send an Aqua from our deck to the graveyard. The Tearlaments, surprisingly, are Aqua. I don't know why. So he is just a 1-card fusion. He has an end phase effect where you can tribute him, add an Aqua from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, it's an okay effect. I don't think I used that once in like any of my 30 duels, but it is there as an option. And also, he is kind of budget. The main reason I'm saying that is because as of recording, when the selection pack for Tearlaments was available, this guy came in it. And I'm assuming that many of the people who are watching, planning to build this deck, or already have the cards, open the Tearlaments pack. This guy comes in it, so you probably have copies of him. Just throw him in. You don't need to craft anything. And he does the job. He does the job well. Next up, Tearlament Scheiren. When she's in your hand, send a monster from your hand to the graveyard. Special summoner, send 3. Also, she has the same effect as the other 2, Mare and Havinous Tearlaments. When she's sent to the graveyard, card effect, fusion summon. You can run 2. I own 2. I'm only running 1 in the deck because she's an ultra rare. Like I don't expect you to craft the most expensive cards. You can get away with running cheap stuff. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. In my playtesting, I've noticed that a lot of people really like Rhinoheart. They're like, whoa, I have to add Rhinoheart to my hand. I need Rhinoheart for blah blah blah. Rhinoheart's cool, but he's not the end all be all. He's essentially just a Mare, except he has Tearlaments in his name. Also, when he's sent to the graveyard, card effect, special summon him back. It's a little bit better, but yeah, the other 2 elements I would say are more important than Rhinoheart. You can get away with running 1 Rhinoheart. You might actually be able to get away without even running Rhinoheart, but I would recommend 1 at least. I'm running 2, and of course, if you have 3, run 3. There are cards you can take out. Next up, we have Kaleido. You can banish it from your field or the graveyard. Target 3 cards in any graveyard, shuffle them back. Quick effect. So if your opponent activates an effect, let's say Monster Reborn, and it says, I'm going to target a monster in my graveyard and special summon it. You can chain this card if it's on the field or in the graveyard, banish it, and then shuffle whatever they targeted. So essentially their card that they targeted is not going to be added to their hand or special summon. It kind of like fizzles their effects. It doesn't necessarily negate it, but they don't get their effect anymore because there's no more card they can target. So it's kind of a neat little trick. Murata does the exact same thing. That's why maybe you should run 3 of him if you want. I really do think they're going to get limited to 1, every single one, because they did in the OCG, they did in the TCG, and I suspect it in the Master Duel as well. And I mean, for good reason, they're very powerful cards. Next up, we got Kelbeck. Kelbeck is just send 5 from your deck to the graveyard. She also has an effect where you can like bounce a card if your opponent sends a card from their deck or their hand to the graveyard. That's a nice little effect. Honestly, if you wanted to run this deck at even stronger and you don't care about the ban list, run both of these cards at 2. Please run both of them at 2. They are so powerful. It's not even funny how powerful they are. They just make the deck so much more better. But I'm only running 1 because I think they're going to be at 1. Next up, Shaddoll Beast 2. Shaddoll Beast only technically needs to be at 1. In fact, you don't even need to run it, but we are running it because when it's sent to the graveyard, draw a card. So essentially your mills can end up becoming, hey, I just milled 3 cards, I got a bunch of effects, and I just drew 1 from Shaddoll Beast. Also, we run 3 Squamata, so anytime we mill a Squamata, we have a chance to mill a Beast. If we don't need to pop a card our opponent controls or spell or trap, if we don't need to banish cards from our opponent's graveyard, we can just send a Beast, draw 1. We're still going plus, baby. And then the spell. Primeval Planet Poloniano. I think I've only used this card once in like my 20-30 duels. It's a really cool card. I think it's really powerful. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have Tearlaments in its name. If you mill it, you're probably never going to get it back unless you shuffle it back in your deck using Rada and Keldo. Yeah, no, you don't even need a run this card. You really don't. I played the deck without it. I still played the exact same. It's just a card that just makes your deck a little more, it makes it a little more stronger. You don't need it. It's not necessary. Another card that I found that's not really necessary, although it is really good, is Tearlaments Scream. I'm only running one. I only own one. Yes, you could run 3, but it's not the best card in the world. It's alright. Like it's a decent card. It has good effect when it's sent to the graveyard. You can add a trap Tearlaments from your deck to your hand. Like it's cool, but it's also an ultra rare. So if you don't really want to craft 3, you don't need to. I run 1 just because I like having the option. But there's times where I'm just like, who cares? Like, I don't really care about this card. It's nice to have, but it's not necessary. Next up, we run 3 Tearlaments Heartbeat. Spell and trap removal. It's quick play, so it's kind of like MST. It also gives you the chance to send a card from your hand to the graveyard, so you can trigger effects like Yugioh, Kelbeck, Beast, even the Tearlaments, so you have a lot of synergy there. And a really cool thing I like about Tearlaments Heartbeat is that it doesn't destroy it or banish it. It shuffles it back into the deck. So if your opponent is playing Waking the Dragon, which might not always come up, but it does, you get around that effect. It's really nice. I love it. Oh yeah, the best part, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Tearlaments trap in your graveyard to your hand. That effect does come up a lot because the Tearlaments trap is really good and really budget. By the way, this card's only a rare, so you don't really need to pay anything for it. It's kind of free to play. Next up, we got Infinite Impermanence. It's a hand trap that you can use even if it's in your hand. I know it's a trap, but it has the effect where if you control no cards, you can activate it from your hand and it gets a monster effect. It's pretty powerful. I think it's the second most powerful hand trap in the current meta behind Maxx. Now that doesn't mean it's the most powerful card in this deck or one of the most powerful cards. It's just a really good card in order to stop your opponent from like further progressing their plays. It gives you a little bit more protection and stops your opponent from completely going off and controlling the game, which I do like. I do like the little bit of protection. And the final card in the deck is Tearlaments Salik. This card is amazing. I'm surprised it's a rare. I'm thankful it's a rare. It should have at least been a super, but they blessed us with a rare. I say blessed even though most of the cards in the deck are high rarity. Essentially what this card does, it's a monster effect negate. If you control a Tearlaments monster and your opponent controls a monster, you can target that monster whether they use their effect or not. So essentially this allows you to fusion during your opponent's turn using monsters on your field if you send a Tearlaments monster. Really cool. Best part is that when it's sent to the graveyard from a card effect, you can add any Tearlaments monster from your deck to your hand. That is the most powerful send effect. You want the Tearlament monsters in your hand. You want them in your hand. It's better than having a trap from your graveyard to your hand. It's better than adding a trap from your deck to their hand. Adding the monsters is the most important. This is the most important trap. There are other Tearlaments that I will touch on before I look at the extra deck. There are cards like Tearlaments Mentanos. Yeah, the effect is kind of cool. It's like a Book of Moon type effect. You switch your monster face down. The only problem is when it's into the graveyard, what do? You target a Tearlaments monster in your graveyard out of your hand. You're never really going to have Tearlament monsters in your grave. Usually when they hit the grave, they're getting shuffled back into the deck and you're going into fusion summon. Like this effect, when it gets milled, it's going to be dead. It's not going to do anything. The next one is Tearlaments Crime. It's literally an Omni Negate. Negates a spell, trap, or monster effect, which is really cool. The only problem is when it's sent from the deck to the graveyard, target one of your banished Tearlaments, add it to your hand. I mean, that's kind of random, and usually your Tearlaments aren't even going to be banished. And if it does come up, I mean, this card is kind of good, but it's a weird, it doesn't really come up. It's better to just have effects that do something right away, such as Salik. When it's immediately sent to the graveyard, add a Tearlaments monster. We have Scream. When it's sent to the graveyard, add a Tearlaments trap. We also have Skolmata, which can just send a beast. We immediately get a draw there. We have a lot of things going on in this deck. The next one is Invoked Kaliga. Essentially, it's each player can only activate one monster effect per turn. If you summon this guy, either during like your main phase 2 at the end of your turn or during your opponent's turn, they're only going to have one monster effect unless they get rid of this guy. And in most cases, they're going to have to use up their battle phase, skip their main phase 1, attack over this guy, and then do their plays on main phase 2. So it is a little bit annoying, and it does help us a little bit. Next up, we have Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Is this card super important? Not really, but it is an option, and it does come up sometimes, so I do recommend having it. Essentially, it's your opponent cannot target this card or monsters on the field with same attribute as this card with card effects. When your opponent can't target your monsters with card effects, that is a powerful effect. That means it gets rid of a lot of things, especially in the mirror match. Like if your opponent has Kaleido Heart and they're trying to target your stuff, not anymore. Like I have Mud Swamp, you can't target it. It's pretty good, but besides that, we don't really go into it because we have better stuff. Shaddoll window, I think it's very important because we do run a Shaddoll package, and the best part is that we can shuffle Shaddolls from our graveyard back into our deck, and the one I like to shuffle the most is Ariel, because Ariel puts in a lot of work. Besides Ariel, I just shuffle back B so we can just get another draw whenever we want. Winda, each player can only special summon a monster once per turn. It's a floodgate. Essentially what it means is that if your opponent plays a deck where they need to special summon a lot and they need to do all these plays, this card just says, yeah, special summon, but once. And after that one special summon, no more special summoning. The game won't allow it. Very annoying card to deal with, especially that it can't be destroyed by card effects. So they either have to target it, and by the way, if you have cards where they can't be targeted, extra annoying, or they have to destroy it by battle. And in that case, they're using up their main phase 1, they're going into their main phase 2 to do their plays. Next up, Kit Kalos. This is banned in the TCG. It's one of the most important cards, that's why it's at 1. Very good. You're usually going into this most of the time, simply because you get to add or send a Tearlaments, and when the Tearlaments are sent, you get a fusion. When you add a Tearlaments, you just have plays you can do. You can normal summon Rhino Heart, you can special summon Scheiren, you can add a kind of hand trap-ish card. Also, you can add the traps or the spells, so you do have a lot of options there as well. Predaplant Dragostapio. This card's mainly here so we can reshuffle fusion monsters that are in our graveyard. Maybe we have a Kit Kalos in our graveyard, a Winda in our graveyard, whatever it may be. This guy kind of shuffles that back into the extra deck. We bring out a monster that's not bad at all. Essentially, it's a quick effect. Target a monster your opponent controls, negate its effects. It's not bad. Also, it becomes like a level 1 or 2 or something. It's a little bit annoying, and I like it a lot because it's just a free boss that we just bring out while getting our resources back into our extra deck so we can use them again. Next up, 1 Root Kalos. Pretty important. It just stops mainly Nibiru, and also stops some other things. It has the effect where other aqua monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. That's a nice little effect, but mainly it's just in here because it just stops your opponent from special summoning using a card effect. It's a nice little effect, and I think this is the most important one. This is the reason that the deck is so powerful, in my opinion. Tearlaments Kaleido Heart. When it is special summoned or an aqua is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target a card your opponent controls, shuffle it back in the deck. Shuffling is one of the most powerful effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it gets around effects where, oh, cannot be destroyed by card effects. I'm not destroying your card, I'm shuffling it back. It's a wordplay. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a lot of wordplay like that. And also, when this guy is destroyed, he just comes back, and you get the Foolish Burial, any Tearlaments from your deck to the graveyard. Insanely powerful card. I am running 2. You can get away with running 1. I ran 1 throughout the whole event. I just had to. I pulled another one, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw them in. I never made the second one. I only ever used 1. So yeah, you can get away with running 1, which I do like. Next up, Starving Venom Predator Power Fusion Dragon. That's a mouthful. I never made this guy once. In fact, now that I think about it, I don't think you can possibly make this guy in the deck. So let me take him out. I don't know why he's in there. That's a bad card. Add in another card if you want. Add in any Tearlaments. Add in something else. Yeah, that was a slight oversight. I'm gonna leave that in the video because I can't really edit it out. But yeah, now you have an additional spot in your extra deck. Feel free to put in whatever you want. Next up, we got number 41, Babushka. I really like him because when he's in defense position, he negates all monster effects on the field. Summon Babushka, defense position. Now your opponent's gonna have trouble like using monster effects unless they have a way to either destroy him straight up, or remove him from the field, or negate his effects. Next up, we have Starliege Photon Blast Dragon. Main reason he's in the deck is because when he's on the field, monsters with 2,000 or more attack, not him sadly, but other monsters, cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. I do like that effect a lot. It's additional protection for the boss fusions, which is nice. And Zeus. If you're running an XYZ deck, if you have any XYZ in your extra deck, you should probably run Zeus. Zeus is the most powerful XYZ in the entire game. He just literally can win games on his own. He is so good. Next up, Derek the Dark Charmer. Steal an opponent's monster. I like it a lot. Pretty cool. Also, when he dies, you can search your deck for a dark monster with 1,500 or less defense. Spright Elf, pretty powerful in this deck as well because we can special summon back from our graveyard Mare, which additionally gets us 3 mills. It also has the additional effect where whatever monsters are where the 2 arrows are pointing cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects. Not being able to be targeted by card effects is powerful, like I said a lot. It's a good effect. And the final card in the extra deck, Underworld Goddess. It's just there so we can remove an opponent's monster if we don't really have another way to remove it. I generally never made this, but I want to keep it in the extra deck just because I think it's a good option to have. Let's get into the replays. I'll be showing off some of them, speeding up some of them, and taking you through what I thought about the deck. Alright, here we go. Replay number 1. Now, our opening hand, Squamata, Mare, Tearlaments Scream, Infinite Impermanence. We're going to activate Tearlaments Scream. It doesn't really do anything here because we don't have a Tearlaments. He's going to activate Infinite Imperm, negating our Mare. And I think we're just going to set Infinite Imperm and end our turn because there's not really much else we can do. It's our opponent's turn. I'm hoping it just doesn't end us in one turn. Although we do have Infinite Imperm, so I'm feeling a little safe, but not super safe. He's playing Cyber Dragons. He's going to do Infinite Imperm again. I don't know why he did that. I think he thought that it would negate the spell. I think that's exactly what he thought, but it doesn't do that. We're going to activate our own Infinite Imperm, negate his fusion. His fusion would have been able to attack like multiple times. We would have just lost. And he only gets 1 attack in, and during the end phase, his fusion dies. He's going to special summon Cyber Dragon, and it's our turn. I know it's not the most impressive replay, but you'll see. Mare, we're going to special summon, Mare, we're going to send a monster from our deck to the graveyard. We send a Tearlaments, we're going to go into Kitkalos. This is where everything begins. Kitkalos is going to add us a card. We're also going to send 3 cards from Scream. What do we send? Maxx, Infinite Imperm, and another Mare or something. And then now we're going to use Kitkalos effect to special summon Rhinoheart, the card that we sent from our deck to the graveyard. We're going to send 5 cards in addition to Rhinoheart sending 1. A lot of effects, and we have 4 effects activating right now in the graveyard. We're going to special summon a fusion right here. We're going to get the pop from Shaddoll Dragon. We're going to get Kaleido Heart Shuffle back, and I think that's game. I know it's sped up. Next replay, I'll take it a little slower. Alright, here we go. Replay number 2. Opening hand. Really weird. I have to do a weird play here. I have to get rid of Maxx. I never like doing this, but I don't instantly want to lose. So I'm going to special summon Scheiren. He is going to get a draw from his own Maxx, and we're going to send a Maxx in our hand to the graveyard. Our mills are bonkers. Look at this. Look, 3 cards from the top of our deck. We hit the trap. We get a Tearlaments card added from added from our deck to our hand. We get Rhinoheart special summon from our graveyard, and then we get to add the trap back using Heartbeat. Like, ooh, a lot of effects. Ash Blossom is going to stop the trap from adding a monster. That's pretty good on his part because we wanted to add something because we haven't normaled yet. And we're going to get the trap back in our hand, and Rhinoheart, when he special summoned, we have to send a card from our hand to the graveyard, so we're going to send the trap that we just added. And now we're going to mill 1. We sent a Mare. Yeah, Merle's just going to be chilling in our graveyard. I want her in our graveyard, so that's why I did that. And he's playing Kaijus. He's going to play the Dark Hole Kaiju, where he special summons 1 Kaiju to our side of the field, his side of the field, and he's going to get a lot of counters on Waterfront. The scary thing about Kaijus, like real true Kaijus, like the real deck, is that they have effects. If you have Kaiju counters, which the field spell grants, you can do really cool things. Here he's going to drop a Raigeki, he's going to destroy a Kitkalos, and he's also going to destroy his own Kaiju. Kitkalos is going to trigger here. We're going to send 5 cards. We got Beast, we got Ariel. Ariel is going to banish some really important cards from his graveyard. We got Heartbeat, adding a trap. Oh yeah, didn't we mill the trap as well? Yeah, that's right. We milled the trap as well, 4 effects. There's a reason this deck is one of the best decks in the game, is because you just get so much free advantage. It's dumb, and I hope it gets eliminated really quickly because, I mean, this deck is just way too powerful, in my opinion. He's going to use his field spell. He's going to add a Kaiju from his deck to his hand. Then he's going to activate Automatus Action Unit. An interesting card. I don't necessarily think it's good, especially since he targeted the Tearlaments Kaleidos. Because as you'll see coming up, we're going to take advantage of him targeting that card. We're going to activate Scheiren in our hand, special summon. We're going to send a Squamata, and we're going to mill 3. Squamata is going to be able to send something. We milled a Mare, so we're going to be able to fusion, and I think we still have a Beast in our deck, so Squamata is probably going to send a Beast. we're going to fusion using these 3 cards and go into Kaleidos. Yeah, we didn't really need Rhinoheart to go into him because we run fusion substitute. This guy's going to be able to shuffle card on the field into graveyard, and oh, excuse me, Skomata is going to send Dragon. So we're going to pop Autonomous Action Unit. Now, he's going to activate his Kaiju. Essentially, it's like if any card is targeted, you can remove 3 counters, and I think it's like destroy 1 card on the field. I'm going to negate his monster effect. We are going to send our fusion to the graveyard for cost for our trap because we have to send a monster. The cool thing about it is that Kiklos, when it's sent to the graveyard, even though he controlled it, we're still going to get its effect because it was still sent to the graveyard by a card effect. So we're going to mill 5, we're going to bring back our big fusion just because he just comes back like that, I guess. Reinhardt's going to special itself because we milled it, and the trap's going to add us a Tearlaments from our deck to our hand. Let me speed it up because it's over at this point. We're going to add a Merle, and we're going to mill some more cards. Oh, look at that. We milled another card that allows us a fusion summon. We're going to go into Rukalos. Now, if he special summons anything through card effect, we'll just negate it and just attack for the game. Are you having fun? Because I know I was having fun playing this game. This was just, it was just so unfair, this deck, and I loved every second of it because of how unfair it was. He's going to draw Maxx on Merle's summon, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't really have a follow-up play, so I mean, okay. Merle doesn't mill anything, I think, there. We mill Heartbeat, we mill Primeval, and the Maxx. None of those do anything. Maybe the Maxx might come up if we make Spright Elf. I don't think we will. He's playing Blackwings. Woo! Everybody loves Blackwings. And he's going to do Sundry. He's going to add, I think, Vada. He's going to destroy a monster, main phase 2. He's going to set a card and end his turn. And I'm like, huh, okay. Well, I wonder what he set. Blackwings have a couple things they can set. We're going to summon Dragon, attack his monster. Main phase 2, we're going to set Infinite Imperm in the column of his spawn trap. So if that spawn trap's really powerful and we need to negate it, we will. He's going to activate Vada, which allows him just to synchro using cards from his deck. We're going to activate Infinite Imperm. Oh, he has Infinite Imperm of himself. So he's going to Infinite Imperm our monster. Even though it doesn't really do anything to our monster, it's going to negate our own Infinite Imperm. And Vada is going to trigger. He's going to get to special summon Blackwing Dragon. Now, this is why these cards are nutty. We're just going to send it back to the extra deck. Yeah, so this guy not only is good at milling cards from our deck, but he's also just good because, I mean, it's just a good card. Derek, we're going to go into Derek. Now we're going to be able to special summon a Dark from our opponent's graveyard. Main reason I went into Vada is because he's level 2. Spright Elf. Ah, maybe that Maxx is going to come in handy. Special summon Merle from the graveyard. We're going to mill 3. I'm hoping we mill something good. We mill, wow, our mills are kind of nutty. Milled Maxx, Merle, and Scream. Scream is going to add us a trap. The trap's nice because it's just a monster effect negate. Merle is going to allow us to fusion summon. We're going to go into Kiklos. I really do like Kiklos because we're going to get an additional add of Tearlaments. He's scooped. Alright, finally we have the field spell in our hand. Now I can show off the true power of it, right? Dimensional Shifter. Okay. Oh, Floowandereeze. Ooh, Infinite Imperm, negate that. That's why we run Infinite Imperm, because Floowandereeze is one of the best counter decks to Tearlaments. It's a really, really good deck. Infinite Imperm kind of just stops that deck dead in its tracks. So it's our turn. Okay, Snow, Skomata, Aerial. Let's activate Primeval. Let's add a Tearlaments. If he activates any card effect or monster effect, excuse me, we can activate that. And we're going to summon Skomata. He is forced to Book of Moon it. One thing I will say is that when I activated Infinite Imperm on his monster, I'm curious why he didn't Book of Moon it. I don't necessarily know why he didn't. I think he could have, and it would have stopped the negation monster effect, but neither here nor there. He's going to activate a monster effect. We're going to activate Haviness in our hand, and we're going to mill 3 cards from the top of our deck to the graveyard. What did we mill? Let's see. Oh, those are some really good mills. We milled Yugioh. We're going to send 5 cards. Oh, wait, no, we don't. I wonder why not. Anyways, excuse me. He's going to summon the Floowandereeze Penguin. Penguin's going to try to trigger and do a lot of things. Okay. Now we're gonna, okay, now we get our effects. That's why, excuse me. It was just a little delayed because Floowandereeze, like, they take a long turn to do their things. Activate the trap, we're gonna negate his M-Pen. Essentially what that does is it stops its monster effect negate. It also stops him from having an additional normal summon and getting the head. It does a lot here. And we're gonna fusion summon using the cards in our graveyard, including the card on our field. Kaleido Heart. I just want to shuffle. I want to get M-Pen out of the field as quickly as possible. And let me speed it up a little bit. He's just going to add his Floowandereeze back. He can't normal again because we negated his monster effect. And we're going to activate the field here. The field is going to destroy his M-Pen. And he's going to activate the spell, which searches another thing. He's going to end his turn. And it's our turn. Free to play. And it's surrendered. Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna pop off there. But yeah, let's go to the next replay. Okay, here we go. Ooh, look at this opening hand. We do have some options. The opponent's gonna set one card and end. Oh, we're free to play. All right, draw Maxx. Kind of nice. Mare, we're gonna send 3 cards from the top of our deck to the grave. He's playing Tearlaments. Okay, chain Maxx. You're gonna special summon. I'm drawing. Yeah, it's my turn, by the way. So let's speed it up a little bit. Happiness is gonna send 3 cards from his deck to the graveyard. We're also gonna send 3 cards. We milled the trap. We milled Heartbeat, which is gonna add the trap. And he milled Happiness, I believe. He also has a Kaleido and a Rhino Heart. I'm guessing he's just gonna fusion using Rhino Heart, go into Kikolos so he can add or send something. We drew Maxx off from Maxx. That's pretty nice. We're gonna add the Happiness from the trap, and the spell is gonna add the trap from the graveyard to your hand. He is gonna use his monster effect. I'm gonna activate my own Happiness. Okay, two can play that game, right? Special summon my Happiness. We're gonna mill. What did we mill? Squamata, Scheiren, and Infinite Imperm. So Squamata and Scheiren are gonna trigger. He is gonna try to trigger his Scheiren of his own. I'm gonna activate Kelbeck, which is we can bounce a card, and he's gonna chain the fairy in his hand. Essentially, what that does is you can send another fairy from your you can send another fairy from your hand to the graveyard, negate and destroy a monster effect. Pretty cool. And we're both gonna shuffle, I think, because he's gonna shuffle cards in my graveyard to try to negate my fusion summon of Scheiren. He's gonna fusion summon of his own, and he's gonna go into Rukilos. Now, if we try to special summon using the card effect, negate, we're gonna send a beast. I don't think I was running dragon at this point in the build. Yeah, I'm running 3 beasts. I took out 1 beast for a dragon because I was really like, man, I wish I had a beast or a dragon so I could destroy that back row. We're gonna mill Mare. He's gonna mill an Yugioh. Dude, so many effects. Essentially, we're both gonna mill 5 now. He's also getting a lot of effects. The trap's gonna add him something. He's gonna get a free fusion. So yeah, let's just let him cook for a bit. He's gonna add a Rhino Heart. Mare is gonna fusion summon using cards in his graveyard. He's gonna go into Invoke Kaliga. Like I mentioned in the deck profile, this stops me. So now I'm like, damn, I need to get rid of that. I can only activate 1 monster effect. That's it, nothing else. He's gonna activate Rhino Heart, or excuse me, I'm gonna activate Rhino Heart, special summon it. We're gonna get rid of Kaliga using Rhino Heart. I think his Heartbeat's gonna add him his trap back, if I remember correctly. Yep, that's right. And so now we can activate more monster effects. And look at our hand, we have a bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay, well, let's just play the game. He's gonna activate Rukilos on our Marauder. We're gonna activate Snow, just so we can like book a moon something. And essentially the Marauder in our hand is gonna get destroyed. It kind of sucks, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're gonna get the effect of Yugioh, which is more important. Snow is also gonna book a moon his monster, at least attempt to book a moon his monster, switch it face down, which isn't super important, but it is like, it just makes it 2,500 defense, and we have 3,000 attack. We can attack over it easy. He's gonna get the trap effect where he can add a monster in his graveyard to his hand. I'm just like, nah, I'm gonna use my Marauder. In my graveyard, I'm gonna shuffle cards in your graveyard back into your deck. The best cards to target are the ones that do things. So I targeted his Tearlaments, I targeted the things that shuffle, quick effect shuffle, and I also targeted King of the Swamp so that he doesn't have a fusion substitute in his graveyard. We're gonna go into our own Rukilos, and our Rhino Heart's gonna special summon himself. We're gonna send a trap from our hand to the graveyard. And that guy's just gonna send a Scheiren just so we have it. Ooh, he's gonna activate Super Poly and just gonna quit. Oh yeah, time limit win. Yeah, he was playing really slow. And this deck does require a lot of thinking, I'm not gonna lie. So this is gonna be the final replay, and I just want to give my thoughts on this deck. This deck is super fun to play, but it is very unfair. As you may have already noticed, we get a lot of free cards just from milling, and at points we get 5 card effects in our graveyard at the same time. It's just not really balanced, and there's a reason that Konami, the company who made this Master Duel game, there's a reason that they limited the cards, or semi-limited I should say, just as soon as they came out. They didn't leave it at full power, just because the deck is just way too good. Our opponent is playing Super Quantal. I really like Super Quantal. Their boss monster is like unaffected, like big beast. XYZ is super cool. And yeah, what did we mill here? Speaking of 3 card effects, I think we milled 3 cards that have card effects. So we're gonna get 1 add, and we're gonna mill 5 more cards. Oh, look at that, we milled some more card effects. We're gonna draw 1 from Beast, and we're gonna special summon Scheiren. We're gonna send Kelbeck from our hand, which allows us to send more cards from our deck to the graveyard. Look at that. more free advantage. We're going to activate Snow, banishing cards in our graveyard. And the main reason I'm doing Snow is so I can bait out his destruction, because I don't really want him to do it like later. Not that it really matters, I just am preferring him to do it right now on this effect. Snow's going to book a Moon as monster. He's going to get a special summon something from his graveyard. Actually, no you're not, because I'm going to banish a card in my graveyard that I got for free and shuffle 3 cards in your graveyard back into your deck. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to shuffle those 3. And red just fizzled because it doesn't have a target anymore. We're going to set 2 cards. I can't get over his monster. It's too big. Sad face. And he's going to summon Diviner of Herald. Okay, I'm going to activate my trap, which just negates its effects. And we're going to fusion during your turn. I hope you're okay with that. So we're going to activate Shaddoll because it was sent to the graveyard from our own trap. We're going to fusion summon Kaleido Heart. Wow. Now we get to shuffle a card our opponent controls back into the deck. He's going to chain his XYZ, which allows him to destroy a monster on the field. Kaleido Heart doesn't care if he's destroyed. I'm going to be honest. Look at this. His green is going to activate where he gets to draw 1 by sending a card in his hand to the graveyard. His red's going to activate where he gets a special summon 1 from his graveyard. Kaleido Heart's like, okay, well, I'm just going to come back. Also, when I come back, I'm going to Foolish Burial card. I hope you're okay with that. We're going to special summon in defense because it's our opponent's turn. We don't need a special summon in attack. He's going to special summon green. We sent Heaviness, which allows us to fusion summon again. And look at that, Rukalos. Now you special summon through a card effect. Oh, look at that. Fusion Destiny. That's a card effect that special summons. Nah, negate. Rukalos is going to send himself. And the cool thing with Rukalos is that when it's sent to the graveyard through a card effect, it just comes back. It's just a free negate. Opponent surrender. Anyways, my name's KushiKush. I really like this deck. Hope it gets hit. I'm going to be making a budget version when it does get hit because I do expect it to get hit. But besides that, feel free to leave any comments or any questions down in the comments down below. I appreciate and love every single one of you for supporting my channel, supporting me, allowing me to be able to do these things and share what I've learned. And as always, I hope you have a great day or night. Thank you so much for watching. Maybe I'll catch you next time. Consider subscribing. And I'll see you later. Peace.